All right, first up on the slab of May, we have to talk about the monolith, the literary Everest I finally decided to climb again. Stephen King's The Stand. And yes, I tackled the complete uncut edition, all 1,200 pages of it. This isn't just a book as much as it is a full-time commitment. This is the next book in my Into the Kingverse series, so if you're following along, awesome. If you're not, what are you waiting for, Happy Crappy? For the uninitiated, the setup is iconic. A government-engineered plague called Captain Trips gets loose and wipes out 99.4% of the population. But here's the thing, and it's the most important thing to know going in. The plague is just the doorway. The real story begins in the silence that follows, on the empty highways and in the decaying suburbs of a dead America. What's left are the survivors. They're scattered and scared, and they begin to share the same prophetic dreams. These dreams, they pull them across the country towards two magnetic poles. On one hand, we have a 108-year-old woman in Nebraska named Mother Abigail, and she represents a fragile community-focused hope. And on the other, we have a charismatic, smiling embodiment of evil in Las Vegas, the dark man himself, Randall Flagg. This isn't just a story about survival. It's about what we choose to build after the fall. It's an American epic, a kind of modern book of Revelation rewritten by a guy who understands that the battle between good and evil isn't fought by saints and demons, but by broken, ordinary people. The driving force of this novel is its characters. King doesn't just write people here. He builds them bone by bone, memory by memory, until they feel like they can walk right off the page. Reading The Stand isn't something you simply enjoy. It's an experience that gets its hands on your soul. It's vast, it's messy, it's flawed, and at times its pacing, it's going to test you. The rebuilding of society involves a lot of committee meetings. But it's also one of the most profound and deeply human stories about apocalypse ever written. It's a book that asks, when everything is gone, what part of us is left? And is it even worth saving? For a story about the end of the world, it also feels unforgettably powerfully alive. The Stand is also the reason I only got through 2 novels this month, but as the story goes, no great loss. The other epic I tackled in May was Malice by John Gwynne, the first book in The Faithful and the Fallen. Now, I heard all the whispers in the fantasy community, the bold claims that Gwynne's action writing surpassed even Joe Abercrombie. So I went in expecting something absolutely savage. But what I got was kind of a surprise. Malice is classic epic fantasy to its core. We're talking ancient prophecies, a world teetering on the edge of a god war, and a sprawling cast of characters. At its heart is Corbin, a young boy whose coming-of-age story feels traditional, but in a good way. His growth from a normal kid dreaming of being a warrior into something more, it feels earned. And where the book absolutely shines, where it truly sings, is the world building. The Banished Lands feel ancient and lived in. Gwyn layers in history, lore, and political tension so organically that it never resorted to clunky exposition. And guys, he has giants. Absolutely terrifying mythic giants that are woven into the very fabric of the world's conflicts. It's a fun reminder that we need more mythical creatures in fantasy. But here's where my experience got a bit more complicated. This book is a slow burn. And I don't mean a tense, sizzling fuse. I mean it's a book that spends about 3/4 of its length meticulously stacking the kindling for a bonfire that hasn't quite ignited yet. A huge part of that is the massive cast. Outside of Corbin and his immediate circle, I found that many of the characters' voices blended together. This created a strange paradox for me. The action scenes are technically brilliant, they're raw and visceral, and you can feel the historical authenticity in the different fighting styles. But when you're struggling to remember who is who, or you just don't have that deep of a connection, the action can start to feel like background noise instead of the heart-pounding centerpiece it's meant to be. And because of it, the stakes just weren't quite there for me yet. Ultimately, Malice feels like an ambitious and incredibly well-constructed foundation. The world is fantastic, the sense of scale is epic, and the potential for what's to come is enormous. but at times I felt more like an interested observer than a deeply invested participant. I am going to hold out hope that this is just groundwork that's setting up some massive payoff. But hey, if nothing else, you get to meet Storm, who is probably one of the best animal companions I've read in a long, long time. All right, that covers what I read in May. Now, let's talk about the damage I did to my wallet in the new addition to my shelves. This next author, it should come as no surprise if you've been watching this channel for a little while. Of course, I'm talking about the master himself, Joe Abercrombie. I had to get my hands on this new standalone, The Devils, and I didn't want just any copy. Oh no. This is the stunning special edition from the Broken Binding. Just look at this thing. The cover art is incredible. It's got these gorgeous illustrated end papers, and best of all, it's signed by Lord Grimdark himself. Of course, getting it here to Texas from the UK was it was a saga. For a hot minute, it was stuck in customs without a single update for like 2 weeks. I started getting nervous. Then next thing you know, I get a notification that it's been delivered. Only it's not at my house. It got delivered to one of my neighbors. I legit had a genuine moment of terror. These editions, they sold out really quickly. I knew I wasn't going to be able to get another copy, so I kind of had to do that awkward walk around the neighborhood, peering at porches until thankfully I found it. The relief when I finally had it in my hands was just immense. It's safe now, it's going on my shelf, and it's gorgeous. Now, I haven't read it yet. I think I want to finish The Faithful and the Fallen first, but the premise sounds awesome. Think Holy War meets Monster Squad. You have this well-meaning cleric, Brother Diaz, who gets put in charge of a band of supernatural criminals, and the church isn't using them for redemption. It's using them as weapons. It sounds like classic Abercrombie, where you take a decent person, or as decent as you get in his world, throw them into a meat grinder of cynicism and horror, and then you see what's left. As someone who still has to get to the Age of Madness, which I know, it's on the list, it's right up there on the shelf. I am ridiculously excited to dive into this one. I'm expecting the signature blend of gallows humor, morally gray characters you can't help but root for, and brutal gut punch realism. Let me know in the comments if you've picked this one up yet, especially if you managed to snag one of these beautiful editions. And the next book that found its way onto my shelves in May is Valor, the second book in John Gwynn's The Faithful and the Fallen series. Now, I know I just explained how I had complicated feelings about Malice. It didn't completely blow me away, but there was more than enough there that I knew I had to see what happens next. I'm really invested in the journeys of Corbin and Nether. While Corbin has that classic Chosen One energy, I have to admit I find Nether to be a more compelling character right now. And I'm really anticipating that moment when their two storylines finally, inevitably collide. But honestly, one of the biggest reasons I'm diving right back in is the Giants. Gwyn writes them so well, and I find their culture, their history, and their whole place in the world absolutely fascinating. I just want to take more time and learn more about them. I'm also really intrigued by the magical artifacts. The story is built around this God's War and the 7 magical treasures that both sides are hunting for. So far, the magic in the series has been very subtle, very Tolkien-esque, deep and powerful, but not always front and center. I have a theory that as the 7 treasures are found, the magic is going to become much bigger, more explosive part of the story, and I'm really excited to see if that plays out. I'm planning on jumping into this one next week, so we'll see how it goes. So that's everything I read and bought in the month of May. A massive apocalyptic epic, the start of a classic fantasy series, a hard-won special edition, and a much-anticipated sequel. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you read any of these books? Are you a fan of The Stand? Did you love or struggle with Malice? Let me know all your thoughts in the comments below, but please keep it spoiler-free for anyone who hasn't read them yet, including myself. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends, family, and even your enemies. Just please, no men wearing a jean jacket with a smiley face on the breast pocket. And of course, if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button because every subscriber inches me one step closer to taking over the Galaxies. Until next time, take care, keep reading, and I'll see you in the next one.